Hey, Biology 30. So here's our midterm overview. Phil here. And just before I get underway, I will ask, have a few students attending live. And if there's any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and or just take the mic and ask any questions. So just wanted to note that. Those of you watching on recording, hello. You can just kind of see my background here. Just a quick story. We did a little presentation about some esports stuff that I'm involved with at the college. So we had one of our students actually run live panels with women leaders in esports and technology. So that was just kind of a cool thing we were doing. Not exactly related to biology, but of course, science, technology, engineering, or STEM is all kind of interrelated. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you. But let's get underway, and I want to share my screen because yeah, we're going to look at the things to focus on in the note packages for the midterm. I'll go over just, in a sense, just a few things. It might miss one or two key things that, if you doing that. I think I've got some folks in the waiting room, so I'm just going to let them in here. Just give me a moment to click that. Oh, just got to click all the right buttons on my computer. There we go. And, oh, perfect. Excellent. We got more folks joining us. Okay, hi. Yeah, so just Phil here, and definitely if you got any questions, let me know in the chat. I'm going to get underway with a relatively quick overview of the midterm. Feel free to take the mic. I want you to know we are recording, so hello. If you can hear me, just shoot something maybe in the chat and just a quick W or a Y, not a W, a Y for yes. and yeah, let's just launch with the overview. You can see the notes here. Ultimately, I click there. There we go. There's our course page. And of course, as you know, you've got the unit notes. Definitely be focusing in on those. That's where all of this information comes from that I'm showing you here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. And oh yeah, thanks for confirming. You can hear me good. So units 1, 2, and 3, that's what's on the midterm. Unit 1, if I had to say it in one word, about neurons. It's about a bit more than that, but how neurons, how the action potential happens, how it works, and you definitely need to understand that. And you need to understand the parts really of a nerve impulse pathway. These 5 key parts, there's the stimulus, then the sensory receptors, then the interneurons, again, in the brain and the spinal cord. Motor neuron might suddenly move your hand. And the effector, well, that's the actual muscle. So the motor neuron signals the muscle to actually move, and then your hand actually moves, right? So those 5 key parts, definitely need to know that. So yeah, I mean, in a sense, there's a bit more. We'll go over what Unit 1's about, but in a sense, it's big time knowing about that. Also, Unit 2 is the understanding of hormones. I think someone's mic is open, just so you know, so because I believe I hear birds, which is really interesting. and so, which is okay. I like birds, but just probably you don't know your mic is open. There we go. So Unit 2 is all about hormones, right? So with neurons and nerves, it's neurotransmitters, and it's very quick. With the hormones, or with the endocrine system, it's hormones, and that's, they're slower, but they're still incredibly powerful. I mean, hormones take kids and turn them into adults, so hormones are incredibly powerful. They always have a gland and then something releasing them, right? The gland releases them, and then a target. And always hormones have some form of negative feedback to turn them off. This is just kind of an overview. Unit 3 is human reproduction, human development, and ultimately it's an extension of Unit 2 of the endocrine system. But yeah, let's jump back into what I was talking about with Unit 1. Definitely know the nerve impulse, those 5 key parts. Scrolling through again. Doesn't hurt to watch this teaching video again, or at least parts of it, on the action potential, making sure you understand, looking at this graph right here, it's critical to know the 2 key parts of the action potential, the depolarization, the repolarization. I mean, essentially our neurons, they need a bit of stimulation to fire, but once they've fired, they go. It's all or nothing. Either the neuron fires or it doesn't. But if it does, and literally in microseconds, this happens. So first the sodium flows in, that changes the charge, and it allows, it's a wave of electrochemical, so electricity though, it's electrochemical, but it's electricity, it's a wave of electricity flowing down the neuron. But as quick as that wave starts, right behind the wave, it's closing. So the neuron is ready again, right? Because if your neuron just fired, and then never fired again, that wouldn't be very useful. And we all know that, right? Like if you're moving your hands fast and stuff, you know that neurons are firing, relaxing, firing again. Like it's incredible how fast they are, but definitely make sure you understand that. And there's lots, that teaching video, and then of course the notes here, and of course this graph should become very familiar. Now, neuron to neuron. When we're going from neuron to neuron, we're talking about neurotransmitters. So this is approximately page 20 in the Unit 1 notes. And I'll just try to copy that. There we go. Bring it down so you can see it. So again, really critical to understand. All right, so we know how a single neuron fires. Well, there's 86 billion in your brain approximately, and of course, even just to move your fingers here, there's going to be, if not hundreds, if not thousands, hundreds of neurons involved. Even, because I mean, think of all the muscles that are moving here with my hand, right? So ultimately, neurons need to talk to other neurons, or also this could be an effector, or the muscle, right? So this, this particular junction here is neuron to neuron, but it could also be sending neurotransmitters to a muscle to cause it to contract as well, right? So ultimately, this is really critical to understand neurotransmitters and make sure, acetylcholine, and there's a few others, those are going to be really, really critical to understand. Another really interesting concept is called summation. So, for example, we, in our brain, we can control and we can not have things happen, even if, suddenly, I'm going to move my hand. Well, no, I'm going to stop my hand from moving. And this is what essentially neuron C here is actually, it's sending it actually hyperpolarizes the neuron D, so it stops it from firing. Whereas A and B kind of work together to make sure that neuron D fires. So there's just different things like that. Definitely read through this so you can understand it. But ultimately, essentially, it's not just a single neuron talking to another neuron, and especially in our brain, there's literally thousands of them wired together, and sometimes they make the next neuron fire, and sometimes they stop it. Sometimes it takes a couple of them to get the next neuron to fire as well. They have to do this, what's called summation. They have to work together. They have to both be talking to that neuron. Indeed, with our brain right now, just understanding, especially new information, but even old information, if I say the word lake, you probably see an image in your mind, and you didn't see an image of a lake just before I said that, right? So essentially what's happening is, multiple neurons basically, picked up that message first, but then sent it to the right place and essentially told a part of your brain, here, show me a picture of a lake. And it's amazing how it actually works, right? All right, so just speeding right along through Unit 1. This comes up again, that's understanding the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. Sympathetic, ultimately, it's the fight or flight, so it's adrenaline. Parasympathetic is rest and digest, so we're slowing down. And again, you want to go through each of those, understand what causes them to be initiated. I mean, ultimately, with the fight or flight, at some point we have to stop. We can't continue, and the parasympathetic helps us do that. Parasympathetic can be activated by just simply relaxing. In fact, for most of us, watching TV or something, in general, will make us relax, unless it's the Oilers, because they're always stressful to watch because they don't win enough. But anyway, in general, there's certain things that we can do just to kind of calm ourselves down, to bring down our heart rate, to help rest and digestion happen. So yeah, it's not just all automatic. We can also, we have control of our body. Yeah, let's just see here. I got this next section. Scroll down. Oh, the eye. Yeah. So, for example, back here, back of the eye, retina, right? So some sensory neurons right there, able to sense light, cones for color, and the rods are basically for black and white rods. Rods are also really good for peripheral vision. So people with really good peripheral vision probably have more rods. People with excellent color vision probably have more cones. It's a big generalization, but definitely there's individual variation. But look at this. If the image is focusing here, you can see it. If the image focuses there, it's going to be blurry. And ultimately, definitely make sure you've read through or read through this section in Unit 1 about different conditions. And just the fact that, if we start focusing the image in the wrong place or not on the retina, well, that's why our vision starts to get blurry and ultimately isn't working as well as it should. And easily happens as an eyeball gets older, right? So that's the main thing. Just jump right into Unit 2. And just because I only show a few things in Unit 2 doesn't mean it's important. It is super important. Because you could spend a little bit making sure you understand about the pancreas, and the key hormone that it creates, that it makes and releases. And of course, that's insulin, right? And so it's, the islets of Langerhans right there in the pancreas. And ultimately, understanding what insulin does and glycagon, they do work together in a negative feedback. And it's critical to be able to describe these negative feedbacks for any questions we might ask about negative feedbacks, but also just it's your basic understanding of how hormones work, right? Because I think we all understand how absolutely powerful hormones are, and that our body can't just release them and be done with it. They're released, they do their job, but then as those hormone levels get high, there's a negative feedback to shut them off. Also, with insulin, as it does its job, because insulin's job is fairly straightforward. Get the sugar into the cells. Some of that sugar will be used by the cells. Some of it will go into the cells and be stored as glucose, right? So that's why we've got here insulin, putting the sugar into the liver. It's going to be stored, this glucose is going to be stored as glycogen. That also happens in muscles too, as well, basically, right? And when insulin lets the sugar into our muscles can store it as glycogen. If we start exercising, then it burns it off, and then that's kind of just natural. We're supposed to, probably our bodies are designed to do at least 2 to 3 hours of exercise a day, really, because that's what our ancestors definitely did and more. But yeah, be really clear on the pancreas, hormones, insulin, glycagon. This is the negative feedback, page 23. I would map that out myself, like redraw it would be a really, really good idea. Ultimately, we get high blood sugar, right? But then through storing the sugar, the glucose is glycogen in the liver, the glucose is glycogen in the muscle, or the glucose getting converted to fat tissues, then the blood sugar goes down. High blood sugar is really dangerous. That's what causes diabetes. And ultimately our body is designed, yeah, we got to eat, but then we gotta put away the materials, the nutrients that we're eating. Especially sugar in our blood is not very healthy. But as you can see, as blood sugar lowers, then glycagon, because the glucose is all gone, gets released from the pancreas, and then glycagon causes, if need be, sugar to, glycogen to be converted back to glucose, so sugar to get back in the blood. So make sure to definitely go over this. And it's a great understanding of negative feedback, and you can use it to understand all the forms of negative feedback, which are really, really critical. What's another one? This picture's not in your notes, but this information is. Basically the control of cortisol specifically, right? So the stress hormone. ACTH is actually what wakes us up in the morning. So if you kind of notice at 6 or 7 or whatever time you're sort of used to getting up, you start getting warm, that's ACTH being released. It's your circadian rhythm, and that's just a fancy word for your sleep cycle, essentially. An interesting thing can happen. Our circadian rhythm can be disrupted, and if you're waking up at 2 a.m. consistently, what's happening is ACTH is being released at 2 a.m. and you're basically, your body's trying to wake up. What often That's often the result of excess stress, actually, because cortisol, what the body's trying to do is it's trying to release cortisol, because cortisol will help you if you're under excessive stress. So not eating right, not getting enough sleep, not getting enough exercise. If you're under excessive stress, your body's going to use cortisol to basically, it digests yourself. Cortisol is very powerful. It can actually take one place it actually focuses on is our thigh muscle and our gluteus maximus, so our butt muscle, and starts to break it down into glucose, which of course losing muscle tissue is never a great thing. And so, but that could be controlled. I mean, if a person's under stress and waking up, at 2:30, 3 in the morning and stuff, it's a good idea to see a doctor. It's a good idea to try to find out how to bring down that stress. And even just stuff like light exercise during the day and just, trying to relax and trying to remove that stress is really, really, really important. One study, and I know I'm kind of dwelling on this, but it's just interesting to me. One study did look at folks who just do, even just a little bit of kind of manual labor, but throughout the day. So it's not like you maybe need to go and build houses all day long, but if you're kind of doing manual labor type tasks, that really does help get a circadian rhythm back to normal. So if that's at all possible, to basically be moving around, and again, if a person's under a lot of stress, waking up. But that's what would be causing it, because ACTH essentially does that. It says wake up, because it gets you warm and you want to get out of your bed because you're just boiling. Okay, continuing. Oh, okay, yeah. So this is unit 3. Yes, this is unit 3, because that's unit 2. Unit 3, structures, male and female. So this is just the male right here on page 5. But definitely these structures. I get the testes. I mean, the key thing with the testes, their analogous structure in females, or basically the same one, is the ovaries. Now, of course, they make very different things, but they both make sex cells, right? So testes make the sperm, ovaries make the egg. And ultimately, understanding some of those basic structures, the vas deferens, or it's called ductus deferens here, but the vas deferens, basically that's, if a male's going to have a vasectomy, that's going to be snipped, and because then the sperm still gets produced and stuff, but basically it doesn't make it to the destination that it was trying to go to. Okay, so cool. So those structures. Oh yeah, on page 7, this is a ovary, a zoom in, right? This little tiny image, we zoom in on the ovary. Make sure you understand, the 14-day cycle, right? So we on, sorry, the full 28 actually, but on day 14 we'd be releasing an egg, so ovulation. But that entire cycle is 14 days, right? And it ends with the period, with menstruation, and then it starts all over again. And so with humans, usually there's only one egg released, so from either one ovary or the other. Sometimes there can be 2, and that would be, then there'd be fraternal twins. Again, rarer to get 3, and multiple births in humans is pretty rare. Happens though, for sure. And of course, with fertility drugs, it can happen fairly, a lot more frequently. But ultimately, an interesting thing. So fraternal twins are literally like, a brother and sister. They're totally different. Whereas monozygotic, one zygote twin, that's a clone. That would be you having a clone. And actually, one of our teachers back at Norquest, he's got a clone. He's got his twin brother, and his twin brother came by one day, and I'm like, "Oh, hi, Ryan," and he's like, "I'm not Ryan." I'm like, "Okay." Then Ryan has a monozygotic twin. he didn't tell us, and that was kind of funny. So that was kind of neat for me, because I kind of realized, wow, they really are a clone. got all the same DNA, right? So it's kind of neat. Continuing on Unit 3, these list of reproductive hormones include in that list, and this is in your notes too, the HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. Basically, it's going to maintain the corpus luteum, therefore estrogen and progesterone. So this is really critical if there's a pregnancy, right? Progestation, grow a baby. That's what gestation means. It means grow a baby. So progesterone is going to grow the baby. And again, you know, these hormones always working together, right? Like that's what's really neat about them, and important to make sure, you know, again, make your own notes, make little flashcards, make a little diagram, a little drawing. Know the hormone, know where it's produced, know the target gland, right? Know the function. I mean, this whole list, but obviously, especially follicle stimulating hormone. Without follicle stimulating hormone, there's not going to be any sperm production there in the male. Without any follicle stimulating hormone in a female, there's not going to be any egg production. Luteinizing hormone, again, it's produced by the anterior pituitary, or the ant pit, as we sometimes will call it. Target is ovaries and testes, then stimulates production of testosterone and estrogen in the female system. So testosterone and estrogen. To put it simply, it's what makes guys or males like a male, you know, especially testosterone for building muscle, and gives a lot of energy as well. Estrogen is more for a woman's body. I mean, basically, one of the interesting things, I'll just let one of your classmates in here. One of the interesting things that can happen with the male bodybuilders if they start taking synthetic testosterone is that their body decides, oh, I don't need to make any testosterone. So then the consequence is, because all males still have estrogen released. So one of the consequences for some of the male bodybuilders is their estrogen levels are a lot higher than when it's compared to their natural testosterone levels, and they end up growing breasts. So that's quite serious, actually, because that shows just how powerful hormones are, right? And that they're really not something to be playing around with. And it's good that they're under negative feedback. I mean, how many times will we mention that negative feedback is important? But it definitely is, right? So this page 19, there's a video going over this question. You definitely want to go through that. You might have already, but you know, your main hormone in terms of a human reproductive hormones, GnRH, or gonadotropin releasing hormone. I just want to set this up so it's transparent. There we go. Okay, so GnRH is released right there, right? And it's going to stimulate the anterior pituitary to basically release, well, follicle stimulating hormone must be there, right? And luteinizing hormone, corpus luteum, we know that that's its target. So GnRH gets these two hormones going. So it's one hormone required to release another, or sometimes multiple hormones. Now then, these ones also, you'll notice they've got their own special hormones that they're communicating with. And so ultimately we got our estrogen here being released by the ovaries, and then the corpus luteum, progesterone. But of course, then these, once they're in the bloodstream, you know, again, high levels, right? High levels of estrogen are going to shut this pathway down. They're going to shut down GnRH. They're going to shut down the release of FSH. Same with progesterone. Progesterone will shut down the release of GnRH. It'll shut down the release of LH. And it keeps those things in balance because there's just a right level. Now that right level is different for everybody too, right? Especially with testosterone is one, you know, some males do have more testosterone just naturally. And in fact, in the whole population, there's females as well that have close to as much testosterone as kind of the average male. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the best female athletes at least throughout history, may have had probably fairly high just because they're so strong, and well, mostly because they're so strong. It's and again, a professional female athlete is usually stronger than about 99% of all normal males. So yeah, it's not so easy just to say, oh, testosterone's a male hormone. Well, it generally is, but it can be found in high levels and across the whole spectrum of individuals, right? But yeah, you definitely need to understand this. On page 19, watch the video explaining it too as well. I went back a little bit, but page 17 has the 28-day cycle, all of the hormones, knowing when they peak. So for example, progesterone is low. It's actually, low for, quite a time period, but then it just peaks sort of right here. And it'll stay high if there's a pregnancy. If there's not, it'll just go down, right? So progesterone, if there's a pregnancy, it's going to actually end up staying high is what's going to go on. And then this is kind of a cool graphic that shows you the endometrium, right? So the lining of the uterus, and it gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and then it sheds, right? So that's the period. And then the whole process starts again. It's a 28-day cycle. And just an interesting fact, I mean, the ancients knew about this, like hundreds of thousands of years ago. But just even the fact that, certain turtles have like 28 shell pieces and stuff, it became very part of their culture and stuff, right? To kind of sort of realize, the cycle of the moon, the menstrual cycle, all of these things are kind of, they're similar, right? And it's just interesting. It's probably more of a coincidence than anything, but it's still very interesting. Okay, what else we got here? So I jumped back to Unit 1, structure of the brain. Make sure to know where the medulla is, right? The medulla oblongata. Ultimately, it's checking carbon dioxide levels is one of the main things. And if you start exercising, so you decide, I'm going to run up a set of stairs here in the river valley, you're going to be burning your oxygen, right? Your oxygen levels go down. You start breathing heavily, but while you're burning oxygen you're using oxygen to burn glucose. When you're burning glucose with oxygen, you're going to be releasing CO2. CO2 levels get high in the blood, and that's the medulla oblongata detects that and gets breathing levels going, essentially. Cerebellum, this actually stands for little brain. And notice, like, it's all these little curves, right? It's all kind of folded in there. So the more folds, the more surface area. So that's also why it's called a little brain. That's literally what cerebellum means. It means little brain. The little brain is involved in fine motor movement. So this is where if you're practicing how to play a guitar, a piano, or any kind of a dance routine or something, I mean, that's your legs, but it starts to get pretty fine. You're kind of doing a very complex routine. All of those kind of skills like that are going to be in your cerebellum. And so that's kind of cool. And of course, then your main part of your brain, frontal lobe. Know what goes on your frontal lobe, temporal, occipital, so that's vision, eyes, ocular means eyes, temporal, so that's, where you're processing sounds, and the parietal lobe up there. So make sure you know those different lobes of your brain. Think. What else we got to show here? I might be near to everything I wanted to go over. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit more. Yeah, those are the main points that I wanted to go over. I'll pull the course notes in again. So yeah, this unit, the midterms on Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. Ideally, you're taking about 3 weeks for Unit 1, 2 weeks for Unit 2, 2 weeks for Unit 3. You have 20 weeks to complete the course, but many of you do want to get done at the end of August. So you are going to want to take note of where you're at, how long we suggest for each of these. The midterm, a couple days studying, right? Like, don't spend a week prepping for it. But yeah, take a look what's coming next, right? Unit 4, 2 weeks. Unit 5 is 4 weeks, we suggest, and you're probably going to need it. There's a lot of practice questions you got to do for that one. And then Unit 6, 2 weeks. And again, there's some really, it is a bit tricky, but it's fun to learn it. There's it's called the Hardy-Weinberg equation. So you'll want time to practice. The good thing about math type questions, you practice them and then your brain gets the pattern and then you just know how to do it. But you have to put your brain through that practice part. You kind of have to tell it, okay, brain, I don't get it yet, but I will. You have to tell I think you guys know that. You have to tell your brain, I'm going to understand this. Just let's practice it again. But yeah, I wanted to give that overview today for the midterm. Make sure to be looking forward as well. I'm headed off on a holiday as of Monday, so I'll still be around on Monday, but for sure by Tuesday I'm off. But Leslie Sayre, an instructor I worked with for years with biology. Actually, I ask him a lot of biology questions when I have them. He's going to be taking over for me just because he's already teaches for us and stuff, but he just wanted to work a little bit in the summer, which is great for me. And ultimately, I'll be back in August, near the end or so. So I'll see you again in August. But yeah, any questions at this point? I've gone over some of the key things that you're going to want to focus in from the midterm. It's always good to catch if there are any questions from you guys. So I'm looking at the chat, and definitely let me know. And or you can take a mic and let me know. Even if it's just not right now, if you type in the chat, not right now, I kind of know, okay, you're good. If you've got questions that you want to email, Les's information is going to be on our Moodle site on Monday. So you can still email me tonight and stuff. But you know, if it's as of Monday, oh, I have a question, you'll send it to Les, and his contact information, Leslie, you send it to Leslie, his contact information will be right in the Moodle, right on our Moodle page. Is there a written response? Yes, great question. Thank you. So yes, the midterm has written response. I'm just going to pull it over to the side and look and just double check so I get it right. So just pull this over here and I'll click on that. And because I want to get it right, I'm pretty sure there's 4 of them, but I'm going to double check that. Okay, and click this button. Great question, by the way, and if there's others, definitely put them in the chat. And it takes me just a minute I want to double check. Yeah, there's 4. You're going to definitely want to know about the action potential. Stress, right? We're talking about ACTH, especially part of long-term stress, right? Key hormones in pregnancy, look into that. And yeah, just your key reproductive hormones. So that gives you kind of a hint about those written response. Thanks for asking that. That was a great question, by the way. Any other excellent questions? If one student has it, probably many do. They said there's none in the mid. Oh, okay, that's a typo. That happens. That's interesting. Must have made a typo on there. Crazy typo to make. Make sure I'm looking at the right exam. I do know this, but I always like to check. I'm like NASA. NASA assumes they're wrong all the time. That's how they make sure not to blow anything up. No, this is I'm looking at the midterm. But yeah, thank you for asking. And that's a scientific procedure to basically always assume you don't know. That's how I kind of walk around. I go, I don't know. Let me look that up. Any other great questions? What I'll do, I'll probably shut the recording down just so that those who are watching on recording, that they're good to go. They've seen the main overview. They've heard that excellent question that was just asked right now. I'll still be here because there's folks here, and but yeah, I'll turn the recording off. And so for those who are watching by recording, take care. Leslie Sayre will be taking over for the summer. His contact information will be on the course site, and I'm gone basically as of Tuesday next week. Tuesday, let's get the date right. Yeah, 29th. Tuesday, August 29. I'm gone. Leslie's coming in on Monday. So kind of both of us are around Monday. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm still here for you guys who are here live. Stop recording.